Welcome, Chameleon Academy, to this wonderful morning. Thank you for starting your day with a little bit of chameleon goodness. And of course, we need to check the brevicorn eggs, because that's what we do every morning now, because we're getting close to hatching, and we do not want to miss when that happens. I would love to be able to film this, so we'll see. We'll see. If we catch it soon enough, I'll be able to film it. Now, in other news, and you know what? That's what we're just going to do today. They're going to just do a couple of news items. This is a vlog, and so I'm going to update you on what's going on here, and then we can talk about a little bit what's going on in the community about hydration. Anyway, next news item is Spearmint. Spearmint is my shamrock chameleon, and if you remember from a couple weeks ago, I had to give Spearmint some metronidazole or Flagyl for some flagellated protozoa. And there was a pretty good infection, and so I gave him his doses. And we talked about, if you remember, we talked about the trust bank account, and I took a whole lot of withdrawal there with the trust because I had to give him medicine. And whenever we have to hold a chameleon, make them open their mouth and give them the medicine, they don't understand why we're doing that. And so that's a scary thing for them. And so I took a lot of trust away that I had built up, and it took a while to refill up that trust account. Well, that was like 2 weeks ago, something like that. 2, maybe 3 weeks. I'm not sure. But Spearmint has just now decided to show himself, so he's coming up to his branch. If you remember, he would always, every day, he would come up to his top branch. I call it the basking branch, and he would sit there and wait for his silkworm. Well, after the medication, he would not come up to his branch at all. Today, finally, he came up and was sitting at his basking branch. I was so happy. He still will not take silkworms from my hand. He will allow me to put a food item on the side of the cage and to zap that food item. He doesn't like the camera, and so I was able to get a still shot of him eating, but wasn't able to get a video of him zapping it because he just wouldn't do it. So there definitely is some trust that needs to be built up. But we're going in the right direction. At least now he's on his basking branch, and I'll just try with silkworms on a regular basis, or dubia or superworms, anything. And so we'll see. You just monitor with me how long it takes to build back that trust. Now, of course, the amount of time it takes to build back the trust is dependent upon how long you spent building up that trust. If you get a true wild-caught, comes in, is terrified to begin with, doesn't know who you are, and then you start medicating it, yeah, you've got a real deep hole to try to crawl yourself out of. Spearmint's been here for a while, has been acclimated, and is used to me and knows that I bring good stuff. And so, although I probably have I got extra points taken off for betrayal, but I think we'll be able to build back that relationship a little bit easier because of how long I built it up before losing his trust. So, as always, I will keep you informed as to how it goes. Now, in other news, the Arboreal XL, this enclosure that's behind me, you know that I've been working on a chameleon for that enclosure, and I had settled on Daisy, who's a female carpet chameleon. I am reconsidering whether Daisy would be the right one for this enclosure. She's certainly, a female carpet chameleon, certainly would be the right size, and I'm looking for something that's that small size. But I am considering perhaps my captive-born male Machacos Hills Jackson's chameleon, and that's who I have in there right now to test out how he's going to do, how he adapts to it. Does he like it? And so we're going to test him out and see. His mouth is a little bit bigger than Daisy's, but still nowhere near big enough to threaten a Euryplatus fantasticus, the leaf-tailed gecko, or a dart frog. And so he would be a suitable candidate for being the chameleon in that enclosure. Now, he is a Machacos Hills-Jackson chameleon, and they do get sizable enough that the standard Machacos Hills-Jackson's chameleon could very easily take down a satanic leaf-tailed gecko. So I'm having to make sure that everyone understands the certain individual that is going to be going into this enclosure that I've got in there right now, and I'm thinking about for this, is actually one that was born here, and he was raised over winter. He was raised outdoors over winter, and so I think his growth is stunted a bit. He has not gotten as big as some of the others, and so, and this is, he's a couple years old, so he's not growing anymore. And if I decide to keep the Machacos Hills, this guy in here, I know that I'm going to have to do a whole lot of warnings and saying, hey, listen, just because I'm doing it with this particular individual doesn't mean that a larger Machacos Hills would be suitable with a Fantasticus. And so I think the burden definitely is going to be on my shoulders to let people know this, that it's not just the species that has to be compatible. It is the size of the individual animal that you're talking about. Now, that said, that's a challenge that I'll be working on. I'll be making my decision. But until now, he is doing great in there, and I'm having a lot of fun filming him. All right, something that I did want to say. I want to talk about the situation of hydration in our community. And many of you know that hydration, how we get water to our chameleons, is a controversial topic. More so, it used to be that UVB was the real flashpoint in the community, and people would take sides on the different ways of doing UVB. Now it's hydration, and we have a number of different camps in the chameleon community. And the thing with hydration, to create these tribes, these warring functions, is that they say we espouse this particular hydration method and the other hydration methods are inferior, don't work, all the way to will kill your chameleon. So what this has done is it created a number of groups that are essentially battling each other. And there's all sorts of drama that comes up depending upon which group you're in. And I'm sure you've run into people like this in the community, situations like this in the community. You've got the people that will only miss during the day because they don't agree with fogging at night, and therefore they dig in, they're going to miss during the day. We've got the whole Reddit group that decides we're going to cup drink. And not only are we going to make our chameleons drink from cups, but we're going to say that misting will kill your chameleon. And of course, that totally ignores everybody else who's misting, and the chameleons are doing just fine. And then you have some elements of the fogging community saying it should be only fogging. And that's basically Peter Nechas. And I have a close talking relationship with Peter, and we talk about these things often. And so I see what he is doing, and I am following the results of his tests. Now, where do I stand? If you are here at the Chameleon Academy, how will you be influenced? And I do more of a combination of elements. My purpose here at the Chameleon community is partially to push husbandry forward and work at those frontiers and the new techniques. But also I have a very strong mission to speak to beginners and make it easy for beginners to use the latest in husbandry. And you see that when I try to help beginners work with hybrid cages, instead of having to go through the screen cage thing that for some reason the chameleon community is just obsessed about these screen cages, when It really shouldn't be. And so that's part, I want to make it easy for beginners. So you'll see my hydration protocol that's on my care guides. It actually includes fogging, misting, and a dripper. And the reason for doing that is I want to give the person who's starting out the very best chance of success. And giving them 3 things to implement means that if they don't do one correctly, the other one is going to pick up the slack. And so you have the misting, you have the fogging, you have a dripper. Between those 3, that chameleon should be hydrated. And some may ask, well, Bill, why do you do all those if you think fogging is great? And I mean, honestly, I could totally hydrate my chameleons, and I have totally hydrated my chameleons with just fogging. I mean, it's a great method. If you start early in the morning, or even go all night, by the morning, that chameleon is well hydrated. You've got the poop. It's a nice, well hydrated poop, and there's moisture. There's dew all over the leaves. And so I could almost comfortably say, you can fog, and that will hydrate your chameleon. The problem is, I don't know how to mess up fogging. I don't know how people would mess it up. And I don't feel comfortable telling someone to do it when I don't have a firm grasp of how everybody else could interpret that and do it wrong, because I don't want to have them use a technique, any technique, fogging or any other technique, if they're going to do it wrong. And so I am right now, even though I do a whole lot of fogging, I am comfortable having my care guides have misting, fogging, and dripping. And it's the same thing with supplementation. I have kept my chameleons of multiple species healthy with just calcium and bee pollen and UVB light. So for a certain amount of time, I wouldn't be using any multivitamin. I had no preformed vitamin A and no dietary D3. And I was doing that to test out UVB. Can we keep our chameleons with just UVB light? And I found out, yeah, you can. And my chameleons were for over years, were absolutely healthy. No problems with, and I wasn't giving any multivitamin. You know, how we do multivitamin every 2 weeks. The reason why my care guides all have a multivitamin every 2 weeks, even though I was able to do it without the multivitamin, is I don't understand why people in the community got vitamin A deficiency. And if I don't understand how I can communicate to avoid vitamin A deficiency, then I am going to have on my care guides that do the Repashy Calcium Plus. I do the low D, but I'm going to say that to people on the care guide because I know if they do that, then they will avoid vitamin A deficiency. And I can't take that off of my care guides until I figure out why people get vitamin A deficiency when they're just giving, say, calcium and bee pollen. Could it have been something that I was gut loading my feeders with? That's very possible. I mean, that's the most probable. But I better figure that out before I change up my care guides. So that's why you're going to see some of the things that I do are more on the frontier, but my care guides are going to be slow followers because those care guides need to be rock solid. All right, so where does that leave you? The intrepid chameleon wrangler who is just trying to figure out how to best take care of your chameleon, and you've got all these competing voices talking about different methods, and if they sound like they're being political, unfortunately, you're right. For whatever reason, hydration's become the topic that people have drawn battle lines about, and I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. And the best thing that you can do is research every method that is being presented to you. And really, hydration is something that was stagnant for a while. We just missed it during the day a couple of times, and that was it. And it literally was, let's see, was it 2017 or 18, 17 or somewhere around there that all of a sudden, things just started really moving in hydration. We started talking about naturalistic hydration and fogging and high nighttime humidity. And since then, the community has been going through growing pains. A number of people aren't ready to make that switch over just yet. And I can't necessarily blame them because we're still figuring it out. And so what you're seeing right now in real time is all of us figuring out what's the best way to hydrate our chameleons. I mean, and it's not straightforward. I mean, these things live in trees where they don't have water there available, and the waters in the streams and the lakes, yeah, chameleons have gone down to drink from those, but they're entirely vulnerable to predation, and so that's not a safe thing for them. And they're up in the trees, but it doesn't always rain. So there isn't like this obvious way that chameleons hydrate. That's left up to us to figure out. There's a number of people who like what we've done for the last 20, 30 years, and then there's people like me who want to figure out what are better ways of hydrating your chameleon. And so for you, I would say, don't take sides. Now, you've heard me say this a number of times. Don't take sides. Just watch all of it go swirl around you. And everybody's going to be talking as if they have the truth and they're going to want you on their side. And you can say, yeah, okay, let me learn about that. Tell me about what you think and absorb it all. By understanding why people say what they're saying, even if they're contradictory, you'll have a holistic view of the entire subject. Now, me personally, I make it a point to deeply understand every hydration technique because I do cage analysis. And for me to do a cage analysis when people have set up a cage, I want to make sure that they change the things they really need to change. And they can, even if they do something in a way that I wouldn't do it, that I would rather do it a different way, if it's not harming the chameleon, I will note it as, I would do it a different way, but I won't put it under the bucket of, you better change this. And this is what you see online a whole lot is when somebody is faced with a cage setup that is different from theirs, they say, you've got to change that, even though this new way works just as well as their comfortable way. The more you understand about the different techniques, the more you understand the pros and the cons, and the more accurate you can be as to what needs to change. And so that's why I make sure I am familiar with each and every hydration method that's out there. And I want to make it clear, as you see me do these analysis, there may be times where I tell somebody, don't change, even though they're doing like cup drinking their chameleon. I won't want anybody to give their chameleon a cup of water. We did that back in the 80s, literally the 80s. What is that? That's like 35 years ago we were doing that. And you know why we didn't keep giving chameleons cups is because it didn't work reliably. We had to put bubblers in it to make the water move so the chameleons would drink it. Yes, some chameleons would drink from it, but not reliably. Not every chameleon would. And so we had to do a bubbler. And so more chameleons. That generally got most chameleons drinking. Later on, we figure out, hey, misting. That meant every chameleon would drink. Every chameleon knew misting was water. And so that is why there was a progression away from cup drinking. But that said, if someone comes to me with a cage and they've got their chameleon drinking reliably out of a cup, I am not going to tell them to change that. I'll say, okay, I would do it differently. And if you see any sign that they're not being hydrated, I would immediately add on more hydration methods. But if the chameleon is drinking out of the cup and the poop is moist and shows every sign of hydration, the hydration is not on the list of things that need to change. And so if you see me tell someone, oh, okay, you know what? Your chameleon's drinking out of the cup. Fine. You don't have to change anything. That doesn't mean that I am changing any of the care requirements because the cup drinking is not a reliable way for every chameleon to drink and get hydrated. And so that's never going to make the care guides, even if in individual situations it's fine. And so there is definitely a different standard between individual chameleons and what works with them and what is going to be advised for all chameleons. Care guides have to be as general as possible and care for the widest number of chameleons as possible. I mean, I say that with the sleeping branch. Remember, I tell everybody, put in a horizontal sleeping branch because that's what most chameleons want. But if your chameleon is one of the percentages that like to sleep vertically, well, give it to them. So that's the difference between what is the care guides, what should you start off with, which is going to give you the best chance of success, and then what are the observations of your individual chameleon. And so that's the situation. I wish you luck in navigating the hydration quirks within our community. With the Chameleon Academy, you're going to find that I'm going to be combining those. And even though I may be experimenting with things that are a little bit more advanced, or I don't know that they're advanced, they're just different, and they may be working fine for me, it may take a while before they get onto the care guides. But if you come to my lives, we can talk about anything at any level on the lives. And that's what's just wonderful about the live sessions that we do. When we're on the live, then I can give context to what I'm saying. And it's not like a care guide. They're just some black and white, and there's not a whole lot of context. So I'm hoping you're enjoying this as a resource. Please come to the live sessions and ask any questions there. That's what I have the live sessions for. So when you look at my videos, you listen to my podcast, you look at the website, and you say, hey, this is all great, but I have some questions. That's what the live sessions are for. Those are office hours. So please consider joining a live session Tuesday nights, 5 p.m. on Instagram and YouTube, and Saturdays at 12 noon on YouTube. I also do a chore night on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. on both Instagram and YouTube. That's supposed to be me doing chameleon chores, but I end up doing a lot of talking and question answering. So you can come to any one of those live sessions, or on weekdays, I have a vlog that releases at 5 a.m. and this is one of those vlogs. And for the first showing on YouTube at 5 a.m. Pacific, there is a live chat, and I am there live in the chat. You can come ask questions, but mainly the chat is just for those of us who love starting our day with chameleon goodness to get together, say good morning to each other. We talk about what's going on, and there are some questions, but it's just a nice way to start the day. And so if you would like to start the day with a touch point in the chameleon community, well, then find us on YouTube at 5 a.m. Pacific. All right, everybody, I'm going to send you off to have a great day. Take care of yourself. Be excellent to each other. And I'll see you next time.